What's going on, everyone? It's 10 days from St. Patrick's Day. I do not have a beer for it. I want to make an Irish Red. Let's go.
Party time brews. This song ain't no good, but we got nothing to lose.
Straight from the BJCP, this Irish Red's an easy drinking pint. It often has subtle flavors and it's somewhat malty in the balance. There's a couple different versions of this. Some of them kind of focus on that soft caramel taste, and some of them are more aiming towards that biscuity, grainy palate and the roasted dry finish. But with that being said, here's what I did. As usual, I don't really mix it up much with the mash. I just went with 65 degrees Celsius and set it up with some RO water. The water profile can be seen here, and I'm just hoping that that higher sulfate level will balance out the lower attenuating yeast that I'm using. For the base malt, I just started out with 2¼ kilograms of pale malt, and then I added 1½ kilograms of Munich malt, which might add a little bit of color to it, and as well might just increase the body a little bit on that. After the Munich, I went with about 454 grams, which is a pound, of Heidelberg malt, mostly because I got it for 99 cents at the local homebrew shop. It's probably pretty old, but I figured I'd give it a try. Heidelberg can basically be just switched in and out for Pilsner malt when able. It's fairly light malt, so figured it wouldn't hurt and wanted to give it a shot. The one thing I did find funny about the Heidelberg malt is that when I threw it in, I did give it a little taste, and it had a really close resemblance to acidulated malt. So there may have been something funky going on there before I threw it in, possibly because it's old. I don't really know the chemistry of what happens when it's old, but this one seemed weird. It definitely didn't taste anything like Pilsner while it was going in there. If you have any information on that, comment below. But yeah, went with that one. And I finally finished off with 114 grams of roasted barley. I threw the roasted barley in there because it will add to the color a bit, or a lot, and it will give it that roasted finish that I'm hoping for with this beer. So once that was all milled up, I did a second milling with the rye malt. The rye malt's a little bit smaller, so I just wanted to get a bit of a finer crush, so I adjusted the grain mill and went with that. The rye malt should add a little bit of a spicy character to it, and it hopefully will give it a little bit more body. And with the rye malt, I also threw in some rice hulls just to make up for any stickiness that might happen from using the rye malt. Rye malt is huskless and might make it a little bit stickier, so just figured I'd cover my bases. Some people say you don't need it. I threw it in just anyway because why not? Once that was done, I mashed in up to 65 degrees Celsius and let it sit for about an hour. Once I was about halfway in, I kind of realized to myself that since that Heidelberg malt tasted acidy, it might actually be acidy. So I dusted off the old pH meter and gave it a test, and lo and behold, it was at about 4.9. I ended up adding approximately 2 teaspoons of baking soda in there to bring it back up to about 5.3 or 5.2 for the rest of the mash, and hopefully the 4.9 didn't mess things up. Probably didn't, but again, covering my bases. For this one here, I actually did a mash out, brought it up to about 75 degrees for 10 minutes, and then was ready to sparge. I forgot to, once again, heat up my sparge water, so it was a warm to slightly cool sparge water I used on it, but either way, it still worked good. Rinsed the grains off nicely. And once I got it up to the boil, I wanted to go with English hops for this, so I went with 30 grams or 1 ounce of Yeast Goldings and about 15 grams or a ½ ounce of Saaz. I ran out of these Goldings and figured wouldn't really make a difference. Both of them were kind of neutral hops-ish. And then later research found out that apparently Saaz is a horrible substitute for Yeast Goldings. Surprise. The reasoning for that, it's just not quite the right flavor, and you won't find anywhere where it says Saaz is a good substitute for Yeast Goldings. So with the 60-minute EKG and the 15-minute Saaz, I also added a Whirlfloc tablet or an Irish moss tablet at 15 minutes in order to hopefully clarify the wort a little bit more, and then I chilled it down to put in the fermenter. While it was going into the fermenter, I threw in a packet of Lallemand Windsor yeast and set her aside, cooled it down. I think it went to about 22 degrees or so by the time I set it aside. And the Windsor yeast went nuts for the first 24 hours. It took about 8 or 10 hours to get going, but after that it was pretty much going kind of like what you see on a fast attenuating Kveik. But it did stop after about 24 hours, and I kind of thought I had a stuck fermentation. And after it stopped, I kind of thought I had to do something about it. Figured maybe something was up with the yeast or something along those lines. So I threw in some US-05, and I think all I really did by doing that is add to the chance of oxidation or anything like that. I did some further research after the fact and found out the Windsor yeast doesn't actually ferment out the maltotriose or something along that spelling. Here's spelled. But it doesn't actually ferment that out, and that can be about 10 to 15% of the sugars, so you would be normally expecting a fairly high final gravity on it. Again, started at around the 1.1 0.055 and ended at 1.024. And although the Windsor yeast kind of finishes high, a lot of the reviews say it does leave a really nice, well attenuated flavor to it. It doesn't kind of go too nuts on the body or anything like that. It does taste pretty good with just that maltotriose left. So let's find out. Okay, here we are for another one of my amazing reviews. First thing you'll notice, not a lot of head there. I did try to pour it a little bit earlier. In fact, this is not the greatest review in the world. This is just a tribute. I did the perfect review, as you can see here, but I forgot to press record on the camera, and I didn't get it. But either way, we're back at it. First thing we're gonna have a look at, like I said, the head. It's there, just not in crazy amounts. It is slightly off white, just like you'd expect with this one. And if you have a quick look, if I shine light to it, she is a very nice looking red color. Don't mind that stupid ring light I got. But either way, it's the right color. I think the grain bill kind of worked out on it, at least to give for the proper color going there. Have a smell. Dip my nose. But yeah, smell, it's a little bit on the sweet side. I don't get necessarily a toffee smell or a caramelly smell like you might expect with one of these, or like some people might go for. But it doesn't smell bad. I don't smell any off flavors, so that's a bonus. And yeah, let's have a taste. Again, third pour today, third or fourth. I think I got another one right over there. That pour sucked. But yeah, let's taste. Kind of went deep on that one. It does have a little bit of residual sweetness. For the yeast, like I mentioned earlier, or like I did mention earlier, the yeast only went down to about, the yeast only attenuated it down to about 1024. With these ones, you want to have it at somewhere around a 1010 to 1014 or somewhere around those lines, so a little bit more attenuated. The Windsor yeast I used only brought it down to 1024, which is on the high side, but as a bonus, it doesn't have that full body taste like you might expect with a really low attenuated beer or a high final gravity there. So it's not bad. This thing only came in at about 3.4%, so she's gonna be an easy drinker. I can drink a lot of them. That's why I can keep doing these reviews after I keep forgetting to turn on the camera. But yeah, let's go in again. Maybe I'll get some other words of wisdom for you. Yeah, again, like I said, more carbonation would have been great. Might have given it a little better head appearance, but damn, I like that color. For things I would have done differently with this, not much with the grain bill. I'm happy with the grain bill. I'm happy with the color that it turned out. The flavor seems great. I'll definitely leave it in the keg, or I'm gonna turn up the keg a little bit more overnight to try to get it a little bit better. It's currently 1 a.m. on St. Paddy's Day, on the early side of the day. And I plan on giving away hopefully a bunch of this tonight. So yeah, I definitely recommend giving this recipe a shot if you haven't tried an Irish Red before. And if you want some more St. Paddy's Day videos, how about check out these two? Boom. Okie dokie. Yeah, here's a word of wisdom. Subscribe. Like. Maybe share.